You're not responsible. It was wrong. Reach out to me. We'll connect you.
I will never see, speak, or hear from Aaron Smith-Levin for the rest of my life.
I've been raised since the age of 4 to follow orders, do as I was told, or risk losing everything.
If we speak out, that's the only way they're going to get the strength to have the courage to do the same.
Why the hell does someone have to escape to get out of a religion?
I'm still shocked by the evil. This is pure evil at work.
Hello, welcome to Come Get Some Extra Scientology edition today with the returning Lori Hodgson to talk about her book. First, let me just get through a couple things here. I am your host, Chris Grimmy. It's Miami6Man on Twitter or at CGS_extra. You can follow the show. I do have a website, ComeGetSome.com. You can also find my YouTube channel, which is Come Get Some Extra, which actually the channel name is CGS. It's the only official YouTube channel I use to broadcast podcasts. So far, I only have the one up with a couple other videos to Clearwater event, and that's it for now. So I may be trying to transfer more over in the future, but that's all I've done so far. And that's the only channel that represents me in this podcast officially. In the meantime, there's been this campaign going on recently. It's nothing that new, but the level that they've ramped it up to, I guess, with season 3 of Scientology and the aftermath coming. Mike Winder's daughter Taryn has been putting out a lot of videos asking Disney to fire her father from Scientology and the aftermath. Disney, of course, being the parent company of A&E TV. So, interestingly enough, I know it's been going around on Facebook and other apps. I was playing a very popular app called Words with Friends. And between the ads, at one point, I saw a familiar-looking woman in front of a familiar-looking entrance to the parking lot of Magic Kingdom, which I've seen many times. And I thought that woman looked familiar, and I usually don't have the sound on, so I turned the sound up, and it was Taryn. It was Mike's daughter asking Disney to fire her dad from the show. And what an odd place to find that. So I did go to Twitter, and I did tweet at the official game of the game makers and their Twitter account, and they came back and said, we don't support this kind of stuff. We are working right now to remove it, so sorry for this. So they responded pretty quickly, and I haven't seen it since, so hopefully they took it down. But I find it very bizarre video because they know, Mike's Scientology family, and Scientology knows, David Miscavige knows that A&E is not going to fire Mike Rinder from Leah Remini's Scientology in the aftermath. They know that's not going to happen. And they know that people aren't going to see this and go, oh my God, what a horrible person Mike is, poor girl. Everyone knows this. Even inside Scientology, I know they know this. But they still put these videos out, and the only conceivable purpose for doing it is to hurt this kid's father. I call her kid, she's an adult now, but still, it's the most disgusting thing ever. And if Taryn can hear this, or anyone else who's in Scientology or on the fence and wondering what to do or what to make of these things, just think of this. A very popular app of a very popular game online that many people are playing around the world has stated that they don't support your kind of crap and they're getting rid of it. What does that mean for what you stand for? What are you standing for? This is what people think of what you did and what you're doing. Think about it. Remember also, if you're stuck and you need some help, there is the aftermathfoundation.org. So I did put some links in there for the link, the small link for Amazon.com, where you can go and make sure a portion of your purchase goes towards the Aftermath Foundation. When you buy Lori Hodgson's book on Amazon, which of portions of that purchase will go towards Lori's efforts, which she'll talk about in this interview, to eradicate disconnection in families, kind of like what Mike Rinder is going through right now, which I, as a father, cannot imagine ever seeing the day that my daughter says something like that or makes videos like that. And it needs to stop. So without further ado, though, you all can hear Lori Hodgson talk about her book. Let's do it right now. Today we have returning guests. Wasn't on all that long ago, but now there's something to promote. On the show returning today, my friend, Lori Hodgson. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on again.
No problem. You kind of let slip in our last interview that there was a book you were working on. It was kind of a passing thing. I don't think you were ready to announce it yet, but it came out, and now here we are. You actually have it out, available for Kindle to order now, and it will be out on paperback on what day?
On May 1st, so you can pre-order it now. It got released on March 14th, and it did really well the first week.
Yes.
And then it's been a released on Kindle this week, so people can get it right now.
People can get it right now, and this, when I say right now, that's like a week ago by the time you hear this. So it's already been out for a while. A lot of people listening may have already read it. Something that strikes me as interesting, and people who follow the show and follow my Twitter account know I've been talking about this. Scientology, I guess, legal, tried to stop, actually, as far as we know at this point, has stopped somebody you talked to in the media from broadcasting your interview with them.
That's right. It was last Friday I had an interview, and they were going to publish the part about, it's called fair game. Basically, when you're a critic of Scientology, Scientology is going to do whatever they can to shut you up, harass you, silence you. And so they chose to discuss the part about John Allender when he threatened me in my work parking lot, and then a couple months later followed me to Texas, from San Jose to Texas with Mark Warlick. Both of them are from San Jose. And I was the first one that bought the Scroll Busters. And I was, in that video, you can hear my voice. I'm asking Marty, do you want me to call the police? And during that time, I was on the phone with the FBI. So the media outlet was like, wow, we haven't heard this before. So, in my book, I released everything. I didn't hold anything back this time. And then they wanted to talk about my son's $3 million gag order that Scientology silenced them with, and my disconnection with my kids, and then how that might be similar to Tom Cruise and Suri. So they had to run that by Scientology, and yes, they threatened them with lawsuits. So they are putting it on hold right now, and hopefully they'll change their mind.
I'm so glad that I'm just a podcast run out of a spare room of the house on a 7-year-old computer, because I don't have to really run anything by anybody technically. And
that's great, Chris.
I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly certain that anyone, upon presenting what you're going to talk about on their media to Scientology first, is going to be told, you better not air that. I'm fairly certain of that.
Right, and like I've heard from different people, they threaten. They haven't actually done any lawsuits in a long time, so it's just threats to try to silence. They didn't sue Going Clear or Leah Remini with Scientology in the aftermath, any media sources. It's just threats, and so hopefully people, the media will not back out with any of us speaking out, because the truth needs to get out there.
Absolutely. And I'll just say, I know a lot of media people are going to ask first, do you have a comment? This is being said about you. Let it be known, and I've let it known many times on the podcast, Scientologists are welcome to come on this podcast and tell their side. They just choose not to. So it's always an open door policy anyway. But I've asked.
That's right.
Just to clarify, and I know this is pretty, it's duh, but isn't the intimidation effort to stop a media group from publishing your interview, isn't that fair game in and of itself?
Yes, it is, and it's because they want to silence it.
Right. They're going to use fair game to not let people talk about fair game. That's
right.
That's what they do.
Right, and that only tells me that they're worried about it. They're worried about it getting out there because it's the truth. If it was lies, they wouldn't be worried about it. But when someone's telling the truth, you can't really fight the truth. That's why when I wrote my book, I put exactly everything that happened. And it's really easy to tell the story because I didn't lie. So I could just continually go over it.
I think we talked about this. I'm not sure. Did you keep a running journal of the events during this time? Were you writing down things that happened as they happened?
Yeah, I did. I didn't decide to write the book. So I've been disconnected from my kids this is going on the 8th year. And I didn't decide to write my book till a couple years later. After, I heard about the $3 million gag contract and my kids disconnected and all the fair game and how all the attempts I did to try to reach my children and being followed by PIs and having my phone hacked and it went on and on. So I thought, I need to educate people what Scientology does and how they break up families and the fair game and all the things they do to silence a person from getting the truth out there. And so I also was hoping that my kids would read my book because I think if they read it, Chris, I think they'll walk away. I really do. They're going to see what happened behind the scenes when I was fighting for them to stay in school. All the security checks I went through. I mean, just all the different things, all the fair game that they don't even probably know about. I think if my kids read it, they're going to go, oh, my God. And maybe it'll wake them up. That's what I'm hoping. The last interview I did with you, and even my last chapter of my book, I'm trying to come to a compromise with Scientology or that we can both agree on.
Right.
But they refuse. I have to go back in and do those A to E steps.
Right.
That's it. There's no other option. And I can't do that. So I think the only way I'm ever going to get my kids back is if they finally see the truth and they leave. And, I used to be fine with them doing Scientology and me not, but I can clearly see Scientology is not going to let that happen. So my only way of hoping my kids are going to be back in my life is if they see the truth and they finally decide not to be in it. I really feel that's the only thing.
Yeah. So
unless they stop Scientology disconnection.
Right. Which is an LRH policy. It's like part of the built-in religion there, quote unquote.
Right.
Religion. It's funny. You went a year and a half of not speaking until we talked, and publicly on the air. And during that year and a half, it seems to me that you came to the conclusion that you're just giving them what they want by staying quiet.
Yep.
It wasn't going to get you
That's
any
right.
closer to anything. They weren't going to reward you for it. They weren't going to let you see your kids. It's insanity. So you came to
and then
Go ahead.
I know. And then I try to even work with the International Justice Chief,
Right.
which anybody that speaks out and is declared a suppressive person because you spoke out, your only person you're allowed to talk to is the International Justice Chief. Well, that's a joke. I mean, I got to write him, Mark, what was his name again? I can't remember. Mike Ellis? Yeah. I wrote him many times, called many times. And I get a letter back from the secretary that says, I was trying to say, hey, I'm fine with my kids doing Scientology, and I just want to be their mom. I will respect that they do that. I basically wanted to say the problem is the disconnection. I just want to be their mom, but they won't budge. So I tried everything. I even reached out to my kids again before I published, decided to go forward with finishing my book. And I just said, they won't talk to me. How do I ever get through to talk to anybody if I can't talk with the IJC or my own children? And, I realized I need to keep speaking out. I need to do my book. And so that was the final thing that got me to get it published.
So that's why you did the book, was enough is enough. Let's just tell the whole story. Hopefully it gets in the right hands or helps somebody else. But you're going to tell your story. There's no reason not to. It's not going to make a difference anyway, as far as them letting you see your children.
Right. And I've heard of moms and dads that haven't seen their kids in over 20 years and they never spoke out. I can't do that. I have to keep fighting. And it's not just for me. I want to fight for all the disconnected families out there. We have to speak up because that's the only thing that's going to bring it down to either, the people that are in there that are threatened by seeing their loved ones because they'll lose, they'll get kicked out of Scientology or whatever. If we speak out, that's the only way they're going to get the strength to have the courage to do the same and just say enough is enough. I want to be with my family. That's more important. And then they can start looking at both sides and really, have some critical thought about this whole thing and not just what Scientology wants them to think.
Right. It's funny,
or believe
funny
in.
and interesting that we talked about this off air about how, and you surprised me, about how if they came to you today, well, this is before it went out on Kindle, if they came to you today and said, don't publish the book, you can have your kids back, you would say, what about the other families?
Yes. I want it not just for my family. I want all of us to have our families back. And if I made that agreement, I wouldn't feel good about it because my kids are just being forced to do this. It's not genuine.
Right.
And they could say that and then just go right back to closing me out again. And I want it for all of us. I want Disconnection to stop. That's why part of my book, if you buy the book, a portion of the proceeds from the sale of it go towards efforts to eradicate Scientology's disconnection policy. And I'm going to do any effort I can to try to stop it by speaking out and getting more people to speak out.
This reminds me of something Tori Crispin says. Tori Magoo on YouTube. She has a great YouTube series, Used to Be Osa. She talks about how they create their own enemies. And I find it interesting that in all their efforts to suppress your story, to suppress your voice, to keep you from your family, because I think what's supposed to happen is two things, if I'm not mistaken. They separate you from your kids. You can't, as they say or they think, you can't poison them against Scientology, but also that's a strong arm effort to get you to do your A to E and come back. And that all backfires in the execution because here you are, somebody who was willing to work with them. You were going to shut your mouth and let things be as long as you can be around your family. And instead, you have a book coming out, you're on my podcast, and you're going to be doing things publicly to speak out and do everything you can using proceeds from this book to eradicate disconnection. It's typical.
Yeah, I know. It's like, why didn't they just work with me in the very beginning? Why did they threaten me a week after I resigned to take my kids from me? I mean, you're right. They make their own enemies. And this is wrong. And this is why, like my husband says, he always says to me, honey, you do better if you just speak out and educate others. Remember, you may not get your kids back. That's what he tells me, but you can help other families from going through the same heartache. And, you know, that is important. But I do believe I'm going to get my kids back. I believe they're going to read my book. I believe they're going to start looking, and they're going to go, it's going to be like, oh, my God, what are we doing?
Right.
And hopefully that's what I really see it. I really see they're going to walk away.
You know,
I do now.
It shows a lot of character to me that I know from knowing you personally here that the most important thing to you is getting your family back together. And I think that's clear in your book. But that you make this stand, that you make this statement that it has to be all families, shows a ton of character that we don't see from what's supposed to be the most ethical religion on earth.
Right.
It's very strong, Larry. Very strong.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Was it
you know,
difficult? To come to that place, was it difficult for you to come to the determination that you had to do the book, that you had to make that statement, that you had to make that stand, or was it just sort of like a come to Jesus moment, just like you woke up one day and you realized this is what needs to be done?
Like I say, after I tried working with them, well, after I saw the kids on Good Morning America, and that really, you know, it worked. Scientology did that for a reason, to shut me up. And they went for a year and a half. And then I tried working with the IJC, and then I, you know, like I said, I tried working with my kids again. And I just realized no matter what I do doesn't work, I got to do the book. I have to let families know what Scientology does and how I have to warn parents with kids, you know, that are in Scientology, because when they're 15, they're going to get recruited to join staff, the Sea Org. And when you're a Scientologist, you don't have any rights. You can't say no. Because if you don't agree, then you're going to have to go through security checks. Something's wrong with you. You're not helping clear the planet. Then they turn your kids against you. And I think that everyone needs to know what they do. And they need to leave families alone and let the parents be the parents, not the church be the parents. And so that's another reason why I want to write the book. I don't want any other family to go through what I'm going through. You know, and I want kids to read it, because they're going to go, you know, they're in school and they're happy and they have their whole life planned out. They're going to go to college, and maybe they're going to be a veterinarian or a doctor or, you know, whatever. And then Scientology comes along and they go to a 3-hour event, and then it totally changes their mind. They hate school. It's not safe. The psychiatrists are going to take over and get on drugs. And you need to help save the planet, because it might not be here tomorrow. And you need to do this for your parents and all of mankind. I mean, that's what they did to both my kids after a couple hours. And then look what happened. You know, I just think that's wrong.
When you were in Scientology, I don't think I ever asked you this. Were you ever asked to disconnect from someone?
Well, I was, I think, about 14. It's in my book. And
that's right.
I was taking classes. Yeah, I was taking classes, and my dad had a Time magazine article critical of Scientology. And I remember right away I was told, if you have anything critical someone gives you, you need to bring it in and show us. So I told my mom, and then my stepfather, he said, you can't read that. And so we brought it in, and basically they told me we can't read it, that it's just lies, and you need to handle your father and your stepmom to not be critical of Scientology, or basically you're not going to be able to talk to your dad anymore. So yes, I was threatened with it, and I was coached on how to handle my dad, so that he wasn't critical of Scientology. And if I was threatened with disconnection, though, and I had to disconnect from my dad, I mean, I'm looking at back then, I wouldn't have. Probably would have been when I walked away, but, who knows? That was such a long time ago, and I had my mom and my stepdad in Scientology, so.
Okay. But based on that experience, what I was getting at with that is, what do you think your son and daughter think of you that they're willing to disconnect the way they are? Do you think they've been convinced a lot of negativity about you? I mean, do they think you're an SP just because of whatever they were told?
I wish I knew, Chris.
I mean, it's kind of a mystery,
I think they're
right?
It is, and I think they're being fed a lot of lies. I think there's also something bigger than we know with Jeremy's $3 million gag contract. I feel that ties it all in, and that if they are back with me, Scientology is afraid that's going to get out, and I think that could harm Scientology in some way. So I think that $3 million gag contract is a big part of this.
All comes back to that.
To me, I mean, that's my gut feeling about it all. And I know my kids went through what I went through and what I described in my book. So I don't know what kind of leverage they have on them except for Jeremy's $3 million gag order. And my daughter, I don't know. I mean, I know she's taking lots of classes. My son, I'm not sure. I don't know if they're at the same level as my ex-husband where he thinks it's his eternity. Scientology is his eternity. I'm not sure if my kids feel that way. I mean, I'd love to just have a conversation with my kids and see where they're at, but I can't. I haven't been able to have a conversation with them in a long time.
Yeah, it seems that they would respect anything he has to say. He's going to say whatever he has to say to defend the religion. So that's
right.
A huge bonus. And I know they use other family and other disconnections. I'm sure they did that with their resource and some other families. They have other family members and close friends who can use in such a capacity. Well, it'd be influential to hear that from them.
Right. And Scientology has to keep their members in control. I mean, they can't let them, I mean, it's already dwindling down, their numbers, right? So if they start researching and seeing both sides and realizing that they have gone through bad experiences, they're not alone, more and more people will leave. So keeping the disconnection there, I think, keeps it so that they can't look at both sides. Look at me. When I was 13 or 14, I was told everything critical I need to bring in, and then they're going to tell me about it. I don't even get to read for myself what's happening. I tried to get my son to go on the internet, like right when we were going through the disconnection, and he said, "Mom, I cannot do that. That will mess my head up." And I'm like, "What?"
So the internet by default is a brain scrambler.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was like, "No way. I can't do that." I was trying to get him to go on and look at things, look at these stories of families disconnected and just do some research. And he was just like, absolutely would not do that. But he didn't get that on his own. Where did he get that from?
Right.
Scientology and the handlers, that were brainwashing him and my daughter. So who knows what else they've gone through? Have they gone through security checks? I'm sure, tons. And they're probably being told it's all their fault. And when you're in Scientology, it's always the person's fault. And how they can fix it is they need to stay disconnected from me and go by what their church wants them to do.
Do you think they think they're helping you by not associating with you until you come back?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
They think that my son even said, "Mom, I'm really worried about you if you don't do Scientology." This was right before the disconnection. I'm really worried. What are you going to do in your life? What about the next lifetime? And I was like, I'm going to be fine. I'm so happy I'm not in it. I mean,
right.
that he was just seriously worried about me.
Well, without giving away the whole book, I'm just going to say something that I said in my review for your book that I wrote. And that was that I found that it felt like a big key to your being able to get through it the way you did, the way you had that unconditional love for your children. Not that there's other people who had different experiences that aren't capable of it. They are, and they have. But it seems like your story tells gives a very clear picture of how you knew family life to be before being in a cult. Because you're second generation, but you didn't grow up in it. You went in, like, what was it, 9 or 12 or something?
Yeah, 13.
13, okay. So you give a
You're
very
right.
good look at your family life. You know the value of family. That's something that second generations, third generations, your kids didn't get to see in that respect. Was that
and I tried to
intentional
give
that
that
you
to
did that?
them. Well, I wanted to build that foundation when I was younger because I had a really happy childhood. And, I grew up, we watched the news in the evening after dinner. And the news was a good thing. You got educated, and reading the newspaper, listening to talk shows, and then I get in Scientology and it's like, oh my God, now it's a bad thing.
Right.
I think it helped having that foundation of having a real strong family values and getting together on the holidays and having family vacations. And I tried to do that with my children, and I did. Even when I got divorced, my ex-husband told me I could have the kids on the holidays. So that's why I don't understand sometimes where my kids are at, because they had, they didn't get too involved in Scientology until after I got divorced. So they went to a Scientology school, but they didn't really take classes at night. And we did stuff on the weekends. And we had a good family. That's why when they turned 15, it all changed.
Wow.
Each one, when both of them turned 15, yeah.
Wow. Well, I just want to say, anyone who hasn't read it yet has to go read this book. This book is amazing. I hope you don't mind my suggestion. People should look up the link that they can go and donate through Amazon. So like a portion of that donation goes to Aftermath Foundation. And then on top of it, the proceeds of the book will help Lori, help you go around and do what you can to educate people about Disconnection and Scientology. I think it's awesome.
Yes, that's great.
So I do believe you already got like a book signing set up somewhere?
Yes, I have my first book signing here in Upper Lake on June 10th at the Wine Studio. And I have a publicist, and they're doing different press releases to the bookstores and colleges and high schools. So I'm making it my full-time job to speak out and educate people about what Scientology does and how they break up families.
Is there anything else that you want to say about the book?
Well, I am going to be going to the Las Vegas Book Convention September 22nd. I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
There's a lot of other people that have written books about
Good
Scientology.
Company.
Yes, and I'll meet a lot of people like Chris Shelton and Karen Presley. So that's exciting. And, I'm looking forward to the day my kids read the book and give me a call and go, oh, my God, Mom, we're done. We want to come and see you. So, and then that also a lot of other families will get back together. That's my goal, is I want all of us to have our families back. So hopefully my book will help, and I'm going to promote it in all ways that I can.
The book's called Mothers Heartbreak. I call it a story of heartbreak and hope. And I think everybody should see it, definitely. And Well, since I got you here for a second time already, Lori, something I do with every guest on the show, I do 10 questions. We already did that. But on the second one, we do something called word association. And a lot of people already do word association, so I mixed it up a little bit. You have to come up with the first 3 words you come up with for what I give you, and there's only 5 of them. If you don't like something, you can decline to give your thoughts.
Okay.
You ready?
So I tell you the first 3 words.
I'm going to give you a
that
word,
I come up with,
and you give me the first one you come up with. That's right.
Okay.
All right. First one's a tough one. Marty Rathbun.
That is
Blank.
a tough one. How about I'll just say that. That's a tough one.
That's tough. That one's tough. There you go.
That one's tough. There we go. Yeah.
Disconnection.
Keep speaking out.
All right. Aftermath Foundation.
Leah and Mike rock.
Okay. Speaking of which, Leah Remini.
I love her.
And last but not least, your good friends, Squirrel Busters.
Karma is coming.
Karma is coming. All right. That's one of my favorite word associations so far. It's pretty good. Very
I like
good.
it.
Well, Lori, thank you for coming back again. I know that you're trying to get word out, and I hope more people pick it up and start talking to you about it. No one needs to worry about these stupid threats.
Right. So just everybody keep speaking out, telling your truth, and let's end this disconnection for all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like also, and I hate to say things like this without having any preconceived knowledge, but I believe also that your kids will find their way home, and I really pull for that every day.
Thanks, Chris. I'm believing that more and more now.
All right, very good. Mothers Heartbreak on Amazon, available for Kindle, paperback on May 1st. Everybody look for it. Thank you, Lori.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
All right, so there you have it. That's Lori Hodgson's books out. Make sure you get a look at it, and if you want the paperback, of course, May 1st will be available. Check the links in the description for the podcast. Next week, taking this in a little bit more of a positive direction. What's it like to be on the fence or to be in a situation where if you speak out, everyone's going to disconnect from you and you'll lose your home? How do you come back from that and make it into a positive and make your life better and improve? I'm going to talk to season 2 participant for Scientology in the Aftermath, Elizabeth Gale, next week about the positivities and all the good that comes from speaking out and coming forward and not being held back by the Church of Scientology. So there you have it. Until then, stay connected. That about sums it up.
You have been listening to Come Get Some Extra on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, and many other streaming services where available. As always, stay connected, and that about sums it up.